Right, we are back with round two of the GT3 AI Cup, where I am simulating 12 races on Assetto Corsa with a bunch of mods to see which is the fastest GT3 car. Without further ado, we will jump into the action. First cars out on track as we jump on board. I think it's the Aston Martin. Got a few cars out on track already. We've got the Ford out on track, got the Porsche, and we have trimmed the field down to 27 races, which is why it's taken a bit more than 10 minutes between my last stream. Hey, Gunnenberg, welcome to the stream. Finally managed to get through a full race without stream issues and the race crashing, so I'm going to finally go on to a different track for round two. But we have removed three cars. We removed the Mercedes, we've removed the Mazda because it was a concept car, and we've removed the Ford GT because we already had a Ford. So now we only have one of each manufacturer, and it's because Austria can only hold up to 28 cars. So we couldn't have a full 30 grid. So from now on, we're going to be running it with 27 different teams, which is fine because now we are properly on one car per manufacturer, and we've taken the fastest car from each. So of course, last time out, just a mere 10 minutes ago, we saw the Porsche take the win in the opening round of the season. A very dominant win in the end. Was under threat for quite a bit of that race, but you can see the standings there in the bottom left. The Porsche with the maximum 30 points for the sprint race. But you can see already, we've already got some cars out on track. The first two being both the Cadillac and the Maserati. Of course, you're going to see the Cadillac come under a lot of pressure already. Will the Maserati pull a move on both the Cadillac and the Audi coming out the pits as it gets a nice slipstream down the straight? But no, it's going to be boxed in and lose a bit of time. But again, this is a slightly longer race. This will be a 1 hour race instead of the half-hour race. So we're expecting double the amount of laps that we saw in Spain. It will also mean there's a two-stop instead of a one-stop race. So there'll be more strategy on the pit stops. You can see there the Maserati making it through into clear air and should have a chance to set a good competitive lap now. Maybe not this lap, but the lap after. And of course, we saw the Maserati finish in I think P4 in the end, just behind the Audi, both of which had very good runs through the field. Another car with a decent performance last time out was not my Ferrari, but this Ferrari here. Again, rocking that same white livery, which we saw last time out. Again, some of these cars have changed their livery. We got the iconic papaya McLaren here, the 650 GT3. Again, not doing a good job last time out, just like the other McLarens before it in preseason. It looks like McLaren are having a lot of trouble going into the season, and again, every point counts, so it would be nice for it to get on the board sooner rather than later. It was an absolute nightmare for the Lamborghinis last time out. Again, they were up in that top 7, as you expect them to be. Of course, those Italian and German teams competing at the front this season. But again, came to tangles with the Alfa Romeo, and as a result, had a pretty poor showing last time out. And speaking of the Alfa Romeo, as we go through the field, we'll be looking to get a good finish to offset the damage which was done last race as a result of that crash. As we got the first two cars coming through, we've already got a 131 on the board. As we got some collisions here, what is going on here? We've got some bumper cars going on back here, and again, none of these cars are going to set a competitive lap, but again, a 15-minute qualifying session compared to the usual 10. It is a slightly longer race here. A two-stop race is going to be in Austria, so a full hour instead of the usual one-stop sprint race. So again, we've got some of these longer races will be padded throughout the season. We've even got some 1.5 hour and even a 3 hour race to close out the end of the season, if we can even get that far. As we go through the field, again, most of these cars coming through, but no one able to set a pretty good lap time yet. Apart from the Dodge, the first to dip into the 130s. I'm sure we'll see a couple of sub 130s, so don't expect this to be pole just yet, but a comfortable 8/10 gap between the Dodge and second place right now, as we have a look at the Ferrari, who again hasn't set a proper lap time yet, and of course we saw came to blows with I think the Porsche and a few others at the beginning of the lap, so don't expect a good lap from the Ferrari this time out. Don't expect a good lap from the Porsche either. Again, 3 seconds down on its previous lap, and after winning last time out, will want to get past the Nissan here as we go into the next lap so it can get clean air. Will it be able to pull off the move? Again, it's only qualifying, but it's very important that these cars get clean air, but not able to make the move stick. And again, we've seen this defensive line now, both at Spain and now Austria, be able to defend positions. As simple as that, really. It's quite hard to pull these overtakes for the AI on the inside line, but sure enough, I can imagine down this start-finish straight, the Porsche should be fine in overtaking, but again, already losing about 7/10 to its best lap. As again, we see some of these cars come through. The Maserati is in beautiful clean air. Don't be surprised if we see the Maserati dip into the low 130s. It has a good shot of pole because, again, a completely clear track in front, which is what these faster cars will want. Again, you can see the BMW stuck in traffic, losing time. We've got the, is this, yeah, we've only got one Mercedes now, so from now on we're just going to be calling it the Mercedes and not the SLS. And the SLS is in clean air, and yeah, this Mercedes looking to chase into that P2, but again, not improving really much compared to its previous lap. We're going back now to see the, yeah, just behind is that Maserati, who again isn't improving, but on board with the Ferrari. The Ferrari is up, so the Ferrari should be able to set a good lap time. Same with the Lamborghini in front. Again, we're only looking at about 133s for these cars at the moment, 134s. No one really in that 130 range, apart from the Dodge, who already is putting a statement down. Because we're looking at a pretty different grid to last time out. Of course, we saw the Vento once again actually in the top 10, so the Vento doing well once again. But quite a few of these bigger name cars not immediately setting the best laps. So you can see the Porsche peels into the pits alongside the I don't know what that was. Is that the Lotus? Sorry. So the Porsche and the Lotus in the pits. The Lotus hasn't even set a proper lap time yet. Only a 137 on the board for the Lotus, a 134 on the board for the Porsche, and none of them really setting good lap times at the moment. It's the Ferrari, a 136. So again, not good lap times for the Ferrari and the Lamborghini, and they're outside the top 20 at the moment on a reduced grid. So not what we would like to see from the two Italian favourites going into the season, but they will have a chance to set better lap times. And again, the Lamborghini on 97 rated AI, so I would imagine we would see the Lamborghini put in a good performance, and sure enough, they must have been tangled last lap because already 3 seconds up on its previous lap. The Ferrari looking like it could drop a 132, which should put it comfortably in the top 10 at the moment. Alongside the likes of the Renault, who is stuck in a lot of traffic. As we see, the Audi as well is boxed in. The Audi all the way down in, well, only 6th place, to be honest, so pretty decent for the Audi so far. Ahead, we got the Vento. Oh, sorry, this isn't the Vento. This is the Dodge, who is our current pole sitter. The only car to dip under 131. And to be honest, only 2 cars dipping under 132 at the moment, which again is quite surprising at this stage of qualifying. I'm wondering if anyone's on a good lap right now. Quite a lot of cars in the pits. They should have enough time to do another lap. As you can see, the Maserati, only a 134 that lap. So pretty slow lap there. I don't even know what's... Oh, it's because it was stuck behind the Cadillac most of the lap, which has literally not set any real good lap time at the moment. As we got quite a spread of like 7 seconds between the last place Lotus and the first place Dodge. But you can see the Lotus coming back out on track. Has enough time to do a few more laps. You can see the cars up ahead, and that's the beauty of this 15 minutes of qualifying. Most of these cars have a chance of 2 proper runs. As you can see here, the Aston Martin literally doing the exact same lap time as it did before. Good enough for P9 at the moment. As we look back through the field, we've got the SGC Glickenhaus in the pits. We're going to go forward. The Alfa Romeo is on a flying lap. The Lotus is impeding it because it's on a slow sort of out lap. But again, we got a potential fast lap here from our current P2, the Maserati. Of course, got that brilliant P4 last time out in Spain, but we know in pre-season that this car in a straight line is the fastest. And around Austria, that should be able to work very effectively. Would it be able to keep up with the Dodge, though? The Dodge proving to be, if anything, even faster in the straight line. Currently still 8/10 ahead and in the pits, so potentially won't be improving, but could actually be good enough for pole at the moment as things stand. So we're on board with the Ferrari. Again, no improvement from the Ferrari at the moment. Only improving up to 18th. The Lamborghini, even worse, in 23rd. And after a dreadful race last time out, the Lamborghini struggling again. And not good news for the Lamborghini, but the Ferrari should be able to recover to, should be top 10. Maybe only a 133, it looks like. Maybe a 132 as we cross the line. It is a 132 high, 132.8. Good enough for P8 at the moment. But again, not the best qualifying performance from the Ferrari. But if it can replicate the P2 from last time out, it would be in a good position. Speaking of high positions last time, we had that Porsche get that most important win in the opening race of the season. But yeah, we saw dove into the pits a few minutes ago, but is now out on an out lap, so should have a chance to improve on that 134, and has beautiful clean air in order to do so. So should be able to put in 2 or 3 fast laps before it encounters any sort of traffic. Speaking of traffic, though, the Audi and what is this? This is like the Jaguar stuck in traffic as well. We've got some battles throughout the field. The Jaguar currently in P5 though, which I think is the highest we've seen a British car place in both preseason and a regular season. So pretty good showing so far from the Jaguar. We have seen a few flash in the pan performances from the Jaguar, but I think last time out it did struggle to get a decent position. And again, the Audi is going to struggle to set a good lap time because, again, stuck in traffic behind the Vento, who is currently P9 and not on a fast lap at the moment, about a second down on its best. The Lamborghini is on a fast lap at least, should be able to improve into that top 15 range, but again, we would expect that Lamborghini to be even higher. Going into the pits, that's very bizarre. And just when it was on a PB lap, it's decided to pit, which is not a good decision. The Ferrari's in the pits as well, and I don't know if they're going to have time for another run. They're really cutting it fine on the timings. As we look at the Alfa Romeo, no fast lap there. The Lotus is on a pretty quick lap as it improves up to. Oh, it stays in 24th pretty much. So, if you look down the field, we still got, the Cadillac needs to get back out on track. Hasn't done a good lap. The Lamborghini currently in 25th place out of 27. So that season is going from bad to worse. Just after it looked like it was a good start in Spain, of course, got involved in that collision with the Alfa. And that's why it's towards the bottom of our standings. And it is towards the bottom of qualifying as well, as things stand. There's, again, more cars going into the pits. I don't know if they're going to have enough time to refuel, get back out on track, and set a fast lap. Speaking of a fast lap now, the Porsche should be on one. As you can see, 30 seconds into that, currently up on its best lap. Already in the 132s, in that top 5, and last time out's race winner. It looks set for another good qualifying. And the Ferrari's still in the pits. As you can see, the Renault's gone back out. Who else has gone back out? Yeah, the Renault. A few more in the pits, though. Will the Ferrari be able to get out in time? It needs to get out in the next minute if it wants a chance to get a flying lap in. And as things stand, it looks like it might just be content with P9. No, it's going out on track just in the nick of time. We'll have just about enough time to set a flying lap. The Lamborghini, though, needs to get out on track right now if it wants to get any better than 25th. I don't know what's going on in the Lamborghini garage, but they've got to get that car moving. And sure enough, they have timed it to perfection. The Lamborghini will have one more chance to set a good lap. Depends where it comes out, though. It doesn't want to be in traffic. Is it going to be behind the cars coming to the left-hand side? It's going to be close. As you can see, the Toyota coming through. The Corsa currently in 13th, so a good lap from the Toyota. The Lamborghini coming out in traffic right behind the Lotus, and should be able to improve, but I don't know, could still be stuck in that 25th place if it's not careful. So we'll only have one chance to improve that lap, and you can see here, the Nissan has another chance or two to improve the lap, but not really many improving right now, as the Porsche is back in the pits already. So only P5 for the Porsche. I thought it was on a better lap, but chose to abort it for some reason. The BMW is not going to improve from P3, P4, but again, a good qualifying from the BMW. We know it can qualify well. The Mercedes had a chance to jump into P2, but it looks like this lap's going to be just off the pace. But no one challenging the Dodge at the moment, who is still, 8 tenths clear and, is on a slower lap anyway, so it won't improve. The Maserati's on a slower lap, so it won't improve. The only shot of pole right now is the Mercedes, but currently not fast enough. Will it have a chance of P2 though? It's going to need a good last 2 corners. It looks like it's going to be just off the pace. Another decent lap there, which will be sub 132. Only 3 cars have gone sub 132, but it's going to be good enough for 3rd place at the moment as it stands. Again, 2 almost identical laps, but we'll have one more chance to improve. As we on board with the Renault. The Renault has a chance to improve as well. Currently P8. The Ferrari currently P9 on a better lap. So keep an eye out on these two. The Ferrari in clean air as well. How is the Lamborghini faring? Already down on its previous lap. It's got to get past the Lotus as soon as possible. Right now it's looking like the Lamborghini is in big trouble. It's stuck behind the Lotus, who again is one of the slower cars of the field. And you can see already, this is the final lap. before qualifying's over, and that Lamborghini is currently stuck all the way down in 25th place, and it won't improve, I don't think. Or it is slightly up on its previous lap, though. It just shows how much time saved the Lamborghini has. The fact that that corner was so slow, yet it's still 3/10 up. Can it get anything out of qualifying? Just a 8th, 10th improvement should be enough to jump it inside the top 17 and be salvageable. But no, you can see it's losing time to its best run. And it's a tragic performance. I think the Lamborghini is going to have to do a recovery drive. Of course, we have got a whole hour race to do so. But yeah, if the Lamborghini wants to salvage anything from this race and anything from the season as things stand, it's going to need a good performance during the race. As you can see, the Maserati is not going to improve. The Mercedes will, and this should be good enough to get P2. As you can see, the Ferrari moves into P4, but still not sub 132. The Mercedes gets its third lap, sub 132, but most importantly, will leapfrog the Maserati to make sure it lines up on the first row of the grid, but still no one able to touch the Dodge, who is just in the pits. Again, the only car under 131. A whole 7.5 tenths clear of the field, and that will be our order come the start of the race. As we configure the pit stops, we're going to have 2 pit stops. We're going to have one around lap 12, and we're going to have one around lap 24. And again, we're going to let the AI choose the laps it wants to come in, but a 2-stop race for the AI. Again, we've seen Ferrari have had good pit stops in the past. Will they be able to benefit from that again as we go for... Well, if you look at the timing sheets, you can see here the starting grid. The Dodge Viper comfortably out in front, a whole 7.5 tenths clear. Again, the Mercedes closely followed by the Maserati, with the Ferrari in P4. Another good qualifying from the Ferrari. Is again, we see the classic Ferrari, Italian, German stranglehold of that top 10. As again, the BMW, the Porsche, the Audis coming in just behind those Italian cars. But again, the Alfa Romeo outside the top 10, the Lamborghini 23rd place, manages to improve a bit, but again, a very poor qualifying from the Lamborghini, despite the improvement right at the end. But you can see just that 10th improvement was able to jump it up a few places, but still, could have easily gone sub 133, that Lamborghini, and that would have comfortably put it in the top 10. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the race. We're going to retire immediately so we can catch the action into turn 1 of the race. But you can see at the back, the Honda, the Cadillac, the Nissan, your usual culprits. As we start the race, we're going to go straight into the pits as we get a bit of a delayed reaction off the start. We're going to go on board into turn 1. This could be carnage. It could easily be a red flag. Of course, this turn 1 notorious for crashes. So we're going to see if all the AI can get through safely. And immediately we got a spin out. No, he catches it. As we got a bit of a pile up ahead. All the cars got through safely, though. That's the main thing. Or are we going to have to red flag it? No. The Dodge already well out in front. The Ferrari already up to P2, benefiting from that collision at the start. But no, all the cars make it through safely. No red flag needed. And we're ready to race. As the Mercedes will keep on to that P2, but the Ferrari making a position up the start. That is the main deal, but you can see already the Mercedes going wide, and the Ferrari could make up another position as the Maserati gets pinched behind that Mercedes. Will lose out that P3 to the Ferrari, who is now already side by side with that Mercedes for P2. A 4-second gap up in front. The Dodge has a chance to run away with this race. But again, it's still got 36 laps total, so anything can happen still as we go through the field. The Renault has made up a few positions ahead of the Porsche. Last time out, race winner down in P7. So we'll have to do some overtakes this time. Won't be able to lead from the front like it did last race. So again, just showing that there's a lot of competitive cars this season. There's not going to be any dominant car, I don't think, throughout the season. So it's going to be important to pick up these top 10 finishes for each of these cars. And again, the Vento finds itself just outside the top 10, behind an Audi, who again, 100 rated Audi. We would have expected more out of this Audi at the moment, but currently only in P10. Maybe just lacking that straight line speed, which you really need around Austria. As you can see what is going on up ahead. The Maserati up the inside. Oh, no. The BMW out of nowhere. I think the BMW was all the way down in like 7th or 8th at the beginning of the race. But we'll make a position on the Maserati. The Maserati is going to try to go straight back at that position. We're going to go on board with the Porsche, who again is trying to make positions after qualifying quite low down, but won't be able to make it. Their outside line giving the traction for both the BMW and the Renault. But the Maserati, it doesn't matter. The Maserati's got such straight line speed. I think it's going to come straight back at that BMW, and sure enough, up the inside. But will it be able to make the move stick? Again, we've seen a lot of moves on the inside just not work. And again, it's going to depend on the traction, but this time I think the Maserati has enough in the tank to make that move stick. And the Renault is looking at both of them, getting the double slipstream. Will the Renault be able to make a move? Up in P6 at the moment, a good showing from the French outfit as we see a change in position there as the Maserati reclaims that 4th place. But again, not the best start from the Maserati. It was up in, P3 at the beginning, fell to P5 and is now on a recovery drive. But you can see there, only rated 90 AI. So if the Maserati is that strong at 90 AI, then, God help the rest of the field, really. In fact, it's still performing well. You can see already, though, 3.5 seconds behind the Ferrari. And the gap's kind of stabilised out front. I think the Mercedes is actually lapping faster than the Dodge as we head towards the end of lap 2. The Dodge only about 3.5 seconds ahead, so won't actually run away from this race as much as we thought. These two cars should be able to keep it honest. And no doubt about it, it is the two rivals, both in real life and, of course, in the game. It is the Ferrari and the Mercedes, the two cars we expected to do well, the two cars which were in that great battle for P2 we saw last time out. And once again, they're in a battle for P2. And if they can keep challenging for podium positions, they're going to be very good championship contenders. Speaking of our early championship contender who currently tops the field, it is the Porsche. But again, P7, very good point score. But, got to be doing even better than this if it wants to shot the title, especially with how consistent the Ferrari and Mercedes are looking. As we go towards the bottom of the field, you can see the Lamborghini still in 25th place. So, yeah, very disappointing qualifying. Of course, was very unlucky last time out in Spain. It's getting involved in that collision. As we can see, there's a collision up ahead, and somebody is out of the race. As you can see, there's got a bit of a pile up here. We're going to need these cars to sort of untangle. As you can see, the Lexus is rolling backwards. I think the Lexus is completely stuck. Lost drive, and what is going on here? Is this going to have to be a red flag? As you can see, the Lexus finally gaining a bit of drive. I don't know what was going on there, but these cars have lost a lot of time. And in the pits is the Lotus is currently well out of position as well. And once again, it is the Alfa Romeo in another crash. So the Alfa Romeo in 2 crashes to start the season. And already the field very much spread out as a result of that collision. And the Lamborghini was stuck in that. Has gained a few positions from it though. Is up to 20th, but is still well off where it would want to be. Yeah, as it's only the one retirement, we're not going to red flag it just yet. It wasn't a complete power lap, but you can see how that has caused the rest of the field to spread out because of that collision. And yeah, once again, the Alfa Romeo won't get any points for this race, I don't think, unless it can somehow miraculously make the 2-stop work from this position. But I think we'll still have to pit 2 more times, and is currently well behind everyone else. So we're now on board with the Renault on the back of the BMW, which has completely fallen off what is now a 4-way battle for the lead, as the leader has been completely reeled in, and after a dominant qualifying performance from the Dodge, he's now being closed down by both the Mercedes and the Ferrari, and again, we're going to have a interesting 4-way battle for the lead, and meanwhile we've got another 4-way battle, this time for 5th place, so 2 trains of 4 forming, and in the front pack. As you can see, the Jaguar doing well to hold on to the back of this sort of train as they're going to try to chase down the leaders. But yeah, currently the fastest lap does belong to the Maserati, the fastest car on the field at the moment. And after qualifying 3rd, has lost the position to Ferrari off the line, but already is closed that gap back down and is competing for the win now. So we're going to have to see how this sort of unfolds. As you can see already, the Dodge lacking that race pace, which it had in qualifying. A whole 4 seconds off what it was doing in qualifying there. And as a result, all these cars behind it, you can see the Maserati a whole 3 seconds a lap faster in race trim. And already going up the inside of the Ferrari. Will it be able to make the move stick? Not quite. Again, we've seen a lot of attempts to make moves on that corner, but none have been successful yet. And yeah, you can see the Jaguar deciding not to go up the inside in that corner. And probably learning from the mistakes of the other AI. But you can see here, the Maserati is going to have another go at the Ferrari. And again, this is another corner we've seen a few attempts made at a pass. We've seen the Maserati actually pull off a move here, but the Ferrari getting really good traction on the outside line. And again, the Maserati is going to have to settle for 4th at the moment. But will it have a 3rd crack out an overtake? Again, Austria, one of those tracks where you can have a lot more overtaking opportunities with those 3 long straights. But again, not close enough to make the move, and the Ferrari will defend another lap as the top 4 remain the same. But again, there's so many laps of this race, there's so many pit stops to unfold. It's still only a matter of time before we see this order completely shaken up, and the Lamborghini is making its way through the field after a bad qualifying. Is on a recovery drive, already up to P20, but again, well off the pace of the leaders. But I think once it gets into clean air, should be able to make up quite a few positions. But currently stuck behind the Cadillac at the moment and not able to make the move stick. As again, stuck behind the Cadillac just like it was in qualifying. And yeah, as a result, losing out quite hugely there when it comes to the cars in front, as we're now on board with the Porsche all over the back of the Renault. Again, this battle for P4 heating up, and we've got our own battle now for P9. So again, you know, groups of 4 beginning to form in the top 12. You've got 3 sort of groups of 4 which are broken away from the rest of the field. As you can see, the rest of the field quite spread up as a result of that sort of pile-up at the hairpin a few laps ago. And that's going to allow some of the leaders to pit into fresh air once it comes to the pit window. And again, that's the other really important reason why it's important to qualify, you know, so far up. Because again, if you're at the front, you're less likely to get into incidents, less likely to get into crashes. But the Maserati's finally got a good drive against the Ferrari. And I think this could be the move for P3, as the top 3 will resume the order they started the race at. The top 4 for that matter, because I think the Ferrari was in 4th. So yeah, the top 4 back to their initial order as the Maserati finally makes the move on the Ferrari. We saw that coming for a few laps now, but the Ferrari again getting the better drive out the corner, already on the back of that Maserati, but I don't think it's gonna pan out at the moment as we go back onto the Porsche now. Again, all over the back of that Renault. But again, no moves just yet as we go down through the order. Is there any moves here? The Lamborghini still hasn't got past the Cadillac yet. And again, we'll need to make this move stick quickly so it can catch up to the cars ahead. Because again, every second it's stuck behind this Cadillac, it's losing time with the lead pack. And if it wants to recover back to the top 10, it's going to need to start getting through these cars very quickly. But again, we know that Lamborghini probably is capable of doing so. As we go back onto the Vento. The Vento's all over the back of the Audi, who's currently had a terrible race so far. And it could go from bad to worse, but no, is able to defend that position. Again, the car's struggling to find places to overtake, really. As we sort of go through the grid, and you can see the top 4 are now getting closed in by the next 4. And we could quite quickly have an 8-way battle for the lead, because the Dodge is just so slow at the moment compared to what it was at qualifying. Again, all these cars lapping in the low 133, 132 range, and the Dodge sort of in the mid 133s. So when we thought it had a chance to sort of pull ahead of the rest of the pack, instead it is struggling to hold on to its lead and holding up the cars behind it. You can see the Maserati has gone for a move on the Mercedes. The Mercedes is going to try to fight it. The Maserati is now side by side as we go into the next sequence of corners. And the Maserati, after dropping to P5, is now back up to P2. As the Mercedes is going to try to hang it around the outside on the Maserati. We know the Maserati lacks the sort of downforce that some of these other cars have, but of course it just makes up for it with its raw straight line speed, as these cars still go side by side, which is going to allow the Dodge to get a bit of a lead on these two, as they're still side by side. The best racing we've seen of the season so far, as they're still side by side after about 4 or 5 corners. The Mercedes finally launches up the inside, and the Maserati, after looking like it secured the move a few corners ago, is now under pressure from the Ferrari, who almost loses it. Oh my goodness, the Ferrari almost bins it as it goes for a move up the inside, does well to save the car. Could have easily been our next retirement, as we can see. I think there's somebody else in the pits now. It is the Chevrolet and the Lexus who must have been involved in a collision of some sort, as we can see the Mercedes, so the BMW launching up the inside of the Ferrari, but to no avail. But yeah, the Lexus and the Chevrolet, I think they were running down the order anyway, but they are now out of the race. So we're only down to 25 runners at the moment. So already like a race of attrition here. There's some collisions throughout the field, and you can see why. It's a lot of these cars going quite aggressive on some of these moves, and as a result, you know, almost getting tangled up. As you can see, we've got some really close battles here. We've got the Renault, who's got an amazing drive against the BMW, who's going to pull to the inside, and we could see a move here. Of course, we've seen the Maserati, you know, on the outside line, you know, not able to make the move stick here, but no, the BMW will keep the position on the Renault as we cut forth to the battle we've been keeping an eye on. And again, the Mercedes, if anything, has pulled a bit ahead of the Maserati. The Ferrari is falling off the face of the planet after that almost spin earlier. But again, should be able to close back in. But no, it looks like the Dodge has finally turned on the jets and is actually lapping quickly now. So all of a sudden, the Dodge is broken up and is beginning to put in those lap times we were expecting from quali. And it looks like it was kind of just pacing the fields, you know, bunching the field up. But as soon as they've started battling, it's taken the opportunity to bolt away. And, you know, currently the Maserati and the Mercedes don't have any answer to that. As they're beginning to drop back. So, you know, tactics there from the Dodge as we're entering the first of the two-stop window. So we could be expecting some pit stops to come in the next few laps. As you can see here, the Porsche on the back of the BMW. As we go down through the field, the Jaguar, again, keeping on this pack in the battle for the top 8. As you can see here, yeah, the Renault dropping a position to the Porsche. So that must have happened earlier last lap as we go to the Aston Martin now, who's on the back of the Vento as well. Don't think it'll be close enough to make a move just yet. But again, we'll keep an eye on that as that unfolds. You've got the Lamborghini still stuck behind the Cadillac. And we've got company this time in the form of the Acura. And yeah, the Lamborghini needs to start making moves as soon as possible. You can see the Chevrolet in the pits as well. Retirement from the race, but this should be the chance now. This has to be the chance. The Lamborghini needs to start pulling this move. You can see there's a 7.5 second gap to the cars ahead. And I'm sure the Lamborghini is fast enough to bridge the gap to the McLaren. But it needs to get past this Cadillac first, which is very much holding up the Lamborghini. Again, not able to make the move stick. It's going to try to sneak up the inside, but that's just going to give it bad traction out of the corner. You can see they're losing so much time just in that corner alone. And yeah, every time it's stuck behind that Cadillac, you know, it's losing out, and it's going to make sure it has to jump it at the pit stops. And otherwise, if it's still behind the Cadillac, it will be losing even more time covering the next stint of the race. But you can see here the Porsche on a comeback drive after, you know, it's still a decent qualifying, but, you know, on the borderlines of the top 10. But you can see already up to P6, chasing down that P5 now. As, again, will we see any pit stops this lap? The pit window is now open. The front three have begun to stabilise. The Ferrari is beginning to drop back from that lead 3 after a good showing last time. So, as it stands, I believe it's a very close battle between all 6 of these top cars when it comes to the standings. I think currently the Porsche just about holds on to the lead. I think the Maserati will probably be P2 overall, and the Mercedes and the Ferrari sort of P3 overall in the standings. But again, we're talking about a matter of points here, and this is still very much subject to change. So we'll see how the provisional championship standings are going to pan out after this race. And again, one of the cars which should be up there is the Lamborghini, but again, had a collision last race and is now still stuck behind that Cadillac. It's just lacking the straight line speed, and it's really hurting the Lamborghini here. Again, probably not the best track for the Lamborghini because of the fact it's so much better in the corners than a lot of these cars, but just, yeah, not able to pull the overtakes on these straights, and that's really hindering its chances. You can see already under threat from the Acura now. So if anything, the Lamborghini could lose positions, let alone gain them. So you can see here the first of the pitters. The BMW peels off into the pits. It will be the first of the front runners to pit. No, scratch that. We've also got the Maserati in the pit going for the undercut. So we'll see where these two come out. And it should hopefully be in clean air. Because again, you can see a lot of these gaps forming as a lot of these cars spreading out as a result of that earlier collision we saw, which involved a number of cars. You can see the Maserati now coming out of the pits. The BMW will follow suit as well. As you can see as well, the Aston Martin in the pits. That was sort of around P12 before pitting. But you can see the 2 cars here. They're going to come out as it just ahead of this pack. It's going to be very close. The Ginetta is going to come out just ahead of the BMW. But the BMW is going to be side by side with the Toyota, but will just about hold on to that position. Meanwhile, 2 positions in front is the Maserati. And once it gets past the Vento, should be in clean air and able to gain on the leaders and potentially move into that leads position. So we cut back now to the Jaguar on the back of the Renault. But again, not able to get close enough to do a move at the moment. As we look through the order, we've got a few more people slowly pitting off into the pits. But again, not too many pitting at the moment. Again, the real pit window is opening this lap. So most of the cars should be diving in either this next lap or the lap after. Sure enough, you can see the Dodge will pit from the leads, which will unleash the Mercedes. The Ferrari is losing tons of time to the cars ahead. Has not had a good few laps. Is dropping out a second a lap to these leaders now, as the Dodge has finally turned on the pace there. Was lapping in the 134s a few laps ago, but now lapping in the 131s. The Ferrari only a 132.6, 7.5 seconds behind the Mercedes. The Porsche closing the Ferrari down, still staying out. As we can see, the Renault's in the pits. The Bentley is now in the pits as well. Decent performance for the Bentley, considering how it was doing all of preseason. But you can see here the Dodge will regain that lead, I think, just about from the Maserati. It's going to be close. Oh no, scratch that. It's not even close. The Dodge is well and truly up the road. Ahead of the Audi as well. Oh, an absolute masterclass of the strategy by the Dodge. As you can see, coming out in clean air. All it has to do is defend this position from the Audi. The Audi sends up the inside, not able to make the move stick. The Dodge defends the position, and I think as long as it can defend on this corner as well, should be well and truly on its way for a decent performance. But yeah, the Audi was one of the cars which was competing for second last time out, and is currently a whole pit stop behind the leaders. So not the best showing so far from the Audi, considering what we saw last race. And there's still plenty of time to rectify that as we onboard now with the Ferrari. We know that the Ferrari can gain about 2 seconds back in the pit stops, but currently about 7 seconds off the lead pack. So we'll need more than that if it wants to be able to gain time. But oh, you can see the Mercedes already coming around to lap the Lotus, which is the back of the lap cars. Again, the Mercedes still hasn't pit yet. We'll jump a few cars which are in the pit, including the the McLaren is, not too far up the road as well. But you can see here, we've got 2 lap cars already in the form of the Nissan and the Lotus. But again, the Mercedes getting held up, and this is not good. What looked like a net P2 for the Mercedes could easily turn into a P3, P4 once the Ferrari pits, and once the Maserati comes through as well. As you can see, finally the Mercedes gets through. Again, the AI is struggling with quite a few overtakes on some of the slower cars. You can see the Ferrari also stuck behind the Nissan, but again, should be pitting this lap, so shouldn't have to worry about it too much. The Jaguar is still staying out, hasn't pitted yet. And it means that the Dodge is the leader of those which haven't pitted and has about a comfortable 5-second gap over the Maserati, who is still kind of stuck in traffic at the moment. So again, the Dodge benefiting from the pit window, but there is still one more pit stop which could shake things up. As you can see, the BMW going for a move against the Ginetta gets worse drive though, so probably won't be able to make the move stick. And again, just stuck in a bit of traffic here. Because of course wants to be battling with the Porsche up ahead, but now we're about 4 seconds behind. So and it's going to be interesting to see what the Jaguar comes out in the grand scheme of things, because again we had those sort of 2 pockets of 4 cars each, but they should spread out after the pit stop phase. So we'll see how that sort of materializes as we go on board with, just behind you can see the Toyota now looking for a move on the BMW, and the Toyota has not pitted yet. The BMW has, but it does not matter. It says thank you very much and tries to take the position. The BMW is going to fight it, and we'll see if it can get the Ginetta as well. It's going to have to be careful though. The Ginetta should be peeling off into the pits. We don't want to see a crash, and sure enough, cuts across the BMW. The BMW is going to be careful now not to go into the back of it, but yeah, sure enough, we'll make that move as these two go into the pits, and that means if we go on board with the lead 2, the Mercedes is still out on track, trying to make the overcut work. The Ferrari is finally in the pits, comes out ahead of the Porsche, and only 2 seconds behind the Maserati. The Ferrari, once again, absolute magic on the pit stops, and I think probably even back into the net P3 now. So yeah, it was about 7 seconds behind the Maserati, but I think the Maserati's just been stuck in traffic, and with that amazing pit stop from the Ferrari crew once again, all of a sudden, the Ferrari is back in the race. But the Maserati is going to finally see if it can eye up a move on the Vento. But no, still getting defended by the Vento, that position. And yeah, nothing materializing there just yet. As we can see some battles down the field. We've got a close battle here for P14. All of these cars have pitted now. You can see as well the Lamborghini has pitted, coming out all the way down in P18. But more importantly, has jumped both the Cadillac and the McLaren, who's going to be just behind, but yet has jumped the McLaren. That's very important now, and the Lamborghini has clear air to kind of bridge that gap, and it is, kind of a 21-second gap to like the Ford and that main pack ahead. So a lot of clean air now for that Lamborghini, but we'll need to start putting in the good lap times in order to sort of have a chance at that top 15. Now it's finally managed to get positions, but you can see how much it's been held up by all that traffic. As you can see, a lot of spreading out here over the course of the race. As you can finally see the last of the runners to pit, as the Mercedes comes out in P2, as it was before, to be honest. But look at that gap, only 2.5 seconds now to the Dodge. 2.5 seconds back to the Maserati. So to be honest, apart from the Ferrari, most of these cars quite stable after the pit stops. Not much, changing in the order. Even so, one of the cars has dropped out the top 8. It is the Renault. The Renault has lost out to the Bentley, who out of nowhere, I don't know when the Bentley pitted, but is in 8th. And I thought the Bentley was in the train behind. But no, apparently the Bentley has benefited hugely from the pit stops and has gone from outside the top 10 into the top 8. So great work from the Bentley team there to jump its way into the top 10. And we've got two Brits in 7th and 8th at the moment, with the Aston Martin in 12th. So finally the British cars beginning to actually challenge at the front, still a way off the Italians and the Germans, who are sort of concrete out front. But it looked like for most of the race the Renault was in a position to challenge to the top 5, but now struggling to hold on to the top 10. So not a good pit stop window for the Renault at all, as it's currently down in P9, losing a position there to I think both the Bentley and the Jaguar during the pit stop phase. So we'll see if it can start gaining those positions back as we go on board with the Lotus. This is all the way down for P22, and again, I think every position scores points at this stage, but again, these are some of the lower point scoring positions. As you see, the Lotus will go up the inside. Whoa, good move there against the Radical. The Radical has no response, and normally we've seen cars hold it around the outside of that corner, but the Radical is not able to fight it, and I don't think we'll have a second chance to come back by the looks of things. As we look at the leaders, the Mercedes is all over the back of the Dodge, who again seems to be on a slower pace at the moment than it always seems like on heavy fuel at the beginning of the stint with new tyres, that Dodge struggles, and the Mercedes is making full use of it as the top 3 are once again, battling closely. The Ferrari once again has fallen off the back of these guys after a great pit stop window. So, the Ferrari just lacking pace by the looks of things in crucial areas. But again, still able to do well because of its great pit stops and, consistent pacing, I guess. Another top 5 showing for the Ferrari should still put it in championship contention. As you cut on board with the Renault on the back of the Bentley, trying to make amends after losing out in the pit stops. But again, nothing really materialising there. And again, we're going to cut back to the bottom. The Radical is losing more positions. Is already completely fallen off the back of the Lotus and is potentially going to lose a position to the Alfa Romeo, who is the only car to have made an extra pit stop after being involved in that collision earlier on. And it's kind of on a comeback drive. And, isn't doing too badly as a result. But unfortunately, there's not too much it can really accomplish after the abysmal start it had. Meanwhile, you can see already the Lamborghini showing why it should be towards the front. Putting in faster lap times than the front runners, to be honest. Lapping in the low 133s at the moment. And completely bridging that gap to the Glickenhaus up ahead. And once it gets past the Glickenhaus, it should be able to challenge some of the top runners, but it looks like there's a bit of a gap between the top 12 and the rest of the field. But if the Lamborghini can recover to 13th, I think that'll be a good day at the office, considering how dire it was looking towards the beginning of the race. But yeah, all the action at the moment is this battle for the lead. The top 3 going pretty much neck and neck, just like we saw in Spain when that was that big battle for P2. But yeah, the Maserati trying to make the move on the Mercedes again. But once again, the Mercedes defending really well, just like we saw before. And we're going to get some more side-by-side action from these two cars who've really been giving all the action so far in Austria. All the best battles have come from these two. But yeah, the Mercedes, once again, superior as we enter Sector 3. May not have the straight line speed over the Maserati, but, is still glued to the back of the Dodge despite the battling. But no, the Maserati is going to have another shot as we go into the next corner, as we're going to go on board with the Mercedes, who's going to try to defend it. But again, the outside line going into the final corner. Can the Mercedes somehow make this stick? It does. And again, great defense from the Mercedes. And again, not losing much time to the Dodge in the grand scheme of things. Still pretty much on its tail, despite all the battling. If you have a look, again, just seeing the cars who are currently DNF'd. But you can see it as well. Wow, we got the Porsche on the back of the Ferrari. And for the Ferrari was a few positions ahead come the start, but again, already under pressure from the Porsche, who's on a good recovery drive after qualifying P8, P9, is now up into P5, and looks like it could be set to take P4 as well. As we can see now, the Maserati again coming after the Mercedes, and you've got to feel that the Dodge up ahead is really lucky at the moment that these cars are squabbling too much, because it's bringing in to play the cars behind, and it's allowing the Dodge to keep its lead at the moment. As the Maserati now is going to pull to the outside, the Mercedes going to the defensive line again. Will late as the Maserati squeezes into the inside. Almost human-like racing between these two cars as the AI duke it out side by side. The Maserati seems to have the better of the Mercedes and finally makes the move stick. After so many attempts, the Mercedes finally has no answer, and the Maserati moves into P2 after falling to P5 at the beginning of the race, is back up into P2. And to be honest, the Dodge now might be under more pressure because the Maserati is faster than the Mercedes in the straight line speed. Of course, the Dodge is faster than I think the pair of them, but when it comes to slipstream, the Maserati will have a chance to close in on the Dodge, especially when it's lacking race pace like it is at the moment. As we now look at the Porsche on the back of the Ferrari. Again, are we going to see any moves here between these two? Not at the moment, as we go down to the Lamborghini, who's closed right back up to the Glickenhaus. A 14-second gap is covered in a little under 3 or 4 laps and makes the move stick much easier than against the Cadillac. Again, having the straight line speed, I think, over the Glickenhaus, which definitely helps. And again, makes that move and is now going to be off in hunt of the Honda. Another car it should have the straight line speed advantage over. And yeah, if it can close up to the Honda, the Lamborghini is on a comeback drive. Started 25th up to 17th. So beginning to make its way through the field. Of course, caught up in that incident earlier on in the race as well. Yeah, currently lapping faster than everyone up apart from the top 12, who seem to be in a league of their own at the moment. There's a whole 18-second gap between 12th and the car behind, but you can see the rest of the field are pretty much bunched together, and the Jaguar's holding up a bit of a train at the moment for that P7. So again, battles for position throughout the field, as you can see here, as we approach lap traffic. Again, because it's a longer race and a short track, we're going to expect to see these lap cars begin to play a factor, which could definitely bring a lot more cars into contention. As again, the first car to be lapped will be the Nissan, and this time it is for position. They both made the same number of pit stops. And speaking of pit stops, the next pit window will open in a few laps' time, so that will give the Maserati a chance to potentially attack the Dodge. As you can see, the Mercedes trying to get that P2 back, which it lost out a few laps ago. So again, just behind the Maserati at the moment. But again, we'll see if that's able to swap positions once these lap cars come into play. And you can see already the Mercedes looking for an angle here on the Maserati. And the longer they're stuck behind these lap cars, the more chance it brings the Porsche and the Ferrari back into play. You can already see that gap beginning to fall. As again, the Maserati makes it past the lap car. The Mercedes should be able to follow it through, but no. You see the Maserati actually losing out to the Nissan, who's battling for position. No blue flags here. They still are allowed to race, which is now holding up these cars immensely, as the Maserati is going to do its favourite move, pull to the outside, squeeze the Nissan narrow. And that should finally be the move. The Nissan's going to still try to fight it, but I don't think that's going to work. As you can see, the Dodge now stuck behind the Radical. Again, the lap car is getting in the way here. As the Mercedes, how is he going to try to get past the Nissan? Is he going to go for a move here? We've seen how good that Mercedes is in Sector 3. But no, deciding against a move just yet. As we go through the order, the Porsche and the Ferrari now right on the back of the Mercedes. Who in turn is right on the back of the lap car. So then the Nissan really holding these guys up. And as a result, it's brought the Ferrari and the Porsche back into play. But the Mercedes is done waiting around. It's going to pull to the inside. You can see the Dodge pulling a similar move on the Radical up ahead. The Mercedes, will he make the move stick? It's going to be close. We haven't seen the inside light work for many cars. But the Mercedes, yeah, the Mercedes still can't make the move stick as well. As you can see, the Radical has lost out to both the leaders. But here comes the Maserati for the lead of the race. Will he be able to pull to the inside and make the move? No, we've seen the outside line work here too many times. And the Maserati will slot into that second place still. As we cross the halfway point in the race. Lap 20 out of 36 now, I think. As these top cars, again, approaching the lap traffic. But the Porsche, again, putting the Ferrari under threat. And we saw the Porsche have to have the better of the Ferrari come Spain. as these two finished 1-2. And again, a top 5 showing for both these cars, showing that they're real championship contenders, even at the early point of the season. But the outside line for the Porsche, giving it the traction, and what a move from the Porsche, learning from all the mistakes the other cars have done throughout the race, trying to take that inside line and getting no traction out the corner. The Porsche getting the move done on the Ferrari. Textbook move there from the Porsche, and it's already now all over the back of the Mercedes, who's completely dropped off the lead too, because again, there's 2 lap cars now separating the front 2 from these other cars. As again, the lapped cars bringing all these contenders into play, including the BMW, who is now also getting brought into the action, as you now got a 6-way battle for the lead. Or shall I say 4-way battle for P3, because I think the lead 2 are beginning to pull away now. He's getting on board with the Mercedes, still stuck behind these lap cars. He's going to try the same move again. And again, he's going to be careful. If this doesn't pan out, the Porsche will have a chance to attack into turn 1. But no, this time the Mercedes a bit closer. And I think we should be able to pull off the move this time. More alongside the Nissan, but again, doesn't get a good drive. And the Ferrari gets the best drive out of the 3 of them. Will the Ferrari go for a double overtake potentially? It's going to be on the outside line. The Porsche going defensive quite early on. But no, should be able to... What's going to happen here? As you can see, the BMW now attacking the Ferrari. So the Ferrari was attacking, and it's now on the defensive. It's spun round. The Ferrari is round. Will he be able to correct it? Great correction from the Ferrari driver. But no, it's beached on the side of the track. And the AI on this game, again, beached on the track. And that could be it for the Ferrari. That could be the race. The AI not able to recover from a spin position. And all of a sudden, one of the championship favourites has tried to defend the inside line from the BMW, and will find itself the 3rd casualty of the race. And yeah, one of the favourites as well, just as the pit window opened, is pretty much out with this race. And just like the Lamborghini last time out, Ferrari is now going to be hemorrhaging a lot of points compared to its contenders. And, you know, it'll still be towards the top of the table after that P2 last time out. But this race worth more points. And the Ferrari completely beached. It looked like he managed to correct himself, but to no avail, unfortunately. So we're back on the leaders. You can see the leader has now lapped the Alfa Romeo and is trying to lap the Lotus for P22. You cut on board with the Lamborghini, who's right on the back of the Honda. So that's what I'm saying. The Lamborghini has now pulled a 10-second gap to the Glickenhaus. And again, you know, the Lamborghini just having the pace over these cars, as the Ferrari is still beached. Unfortunately, he's now coming up to getting lapped after being towards one of the front runners. As you can see here, we've got a battle for position. I think the BMW... Oh, no, so the Porsche's pit. To try to get an undercut just as the pit window's open. So we'll see how that pans out. We've got the Maserati now. And now in the lead. The Maserati is somehow taking the lead. So I think the Dodge must have been caught up in traffic. And there's been a change of lead here as the Maserati... now in front of the Dodge, and to be honest, looks like he's been the faster car this race. Could easily end up running away with this race now. Now it's worked its way to the front. Of course, started in P3, fell to P5, but now up into P1. The Maserati's had a very good drive so far, and yeah, in a position to maybe take the race. As you can see already, the Ferrari's still stricken on the side of the road. It's going to be a DNF for Team Ferrari. After, you know, doing so well in the pit stops and keeping that top 5, it looked like it was a consistent showing yet again for the Ferrari boys, but no, unfortunately, it will not be a good result this time out. Is the Dodge still on the back of the Maserati? Will any of these cars choose to pit this lap to avoid the lap traffic? Well, the Maserati is going to see if it can pull a move already, but no, deciding against it, as I think a few of these cars are going to pit. I think the Maserati is going to pit. The Lotus isn't going to pit. Is the Dodge going to stay out? No, the Dodge goes into the pits at the same time. So it's going to come down to who has the faster pit stop. And we saw the Maserati lose out on the last phase of pit stops. So will it lose out again? The Mercedes choosing to stay out. And again, still behind that Nissan. After all of that, you know, battling. And, you know, that could mean that the BMW is able to jump it. Not to mention the Porsche, which is in clean air, should also be able to get the jump. As still on board with the Lamborghini. And the Lamborghini still hasn't overtaken the Honda. So, might need to pull that overtake on the last round of pit stops. As, you can see here, a lot of cars in the pits. As you can see, I think there's almost 2 cars inside each other. I think that's the Dodge, who is, currently... Where have these cars even come out? They've come out in 7th and 8th. So, again, still quite competitive here at the front. You know, quite a lot of cars still within that pit window, even 2/3 of the way through an hour race. But yeah, they come out 7th, 8th, and 9th, and the Porsche has gained a lot, to be honest, on the Dodge. So might be able to jump a position or two. As you can see, the Radical trying to come back at the Porsche, but again, a lap down, and not really in contention at this point. As we look through the field, is there any other real close battles for position? As we look on board with the Audi, who somehow recovered up to P4, but again, this will probably fall down to about 8th or 9th once the pit stops come through. All the leaders pretty much pitted at this point, apart from the Mercedes, who's still stuck behind the Nissan and will pretty much be coming to the pits this lap, I think, as he pulls off the move. Will he decide against pitting, or will he stay out an extra lap? Stays out an extra lap, but he's on the inside line. Will he be able to defend here from the Nissan? Again, loses out to the Nissan, and it's been 5 or 6 laps now, stuck behind the same back marker who he's trying to lap, and this is diabolical for the Mercedes because it's going to lose him out a lot of track time compared to his rivals in the race. On board with the Audi. Will the Audi be able to get past the Bentley? Of course, we saw the Bentley jump the Renault, but I think the Renault's now pitted again. So we're going to have to see how that materializes, as these cars have stayed out still. And you can still see that Ferrari stricken on the side of the road. A real shame there that the AI not able to correct that. But, I mean, that's all part of the season, unfortunately. As you can see here, the BMW trying to get up the inside of the Radical and should be able to out straight line speed it now. It's alongside. And that should be, again, it's not for position, but it does mean it's one step closer to the back of that Porsche, which, again, at this point, must be in a position to jump the Mercedes. The Mercedes has just been stuck behind the Nissan for so long. As we're now on board with the Lamborghini. Where the Lamborghini going to come out should be ahead of the Honda, and potentially even ahead of the Ginetta as well. We're going to see where this unfolds, as we're on board with the Audi, who's still on the back of that Bentley. And yeah, you can see the Jaguar is now completely closed down the Mercedes. And this train was about 10 seconds or so behind the Mercedes. The Mercedes has lost out 7 or 8 seconds and could find itself behind the BMW for a net P5 at the moment, which, considering it was running as high as second for most of the race, is not a good showing at all. Will finally make the move stick and is going to stay out an extra lap as the race leader. So we'll decide to pit right at the end of the pit window, which is probably for the best, because it needs to really make up the time after a bunch of 137s, 136s, really losing time to the front runners. And you can see the front runners here as this, you know, they're still kind of stuck in traffic. To be honest, they're stuck in traffic too. So the Mercedes might not have lost out as much as we thought. As you can see here, the Porsche trying to get past these two cars so it can be right on the back of the front runners. And again, the Maserati currently in the net lead of the race, just waiting for the last few cars to pit finish. As you can see, actually, the Vento was for position there, defending from the Maserati, but the Maserati finally able to get through. The Dodge still stuck behind. As you can see, the BMW now right on the back of the Porsche, because they're both stuck behind this back marker. So the Porsche needs to kind of make this move stick now. Up the inside of the Alfa Romeo is going to be in trouble, because here comes the BMW, and the Porsche able to get a good drive, so should be able to pull ahead of the Alfa Romeo now. Will the BMW follow him through against this sort of lapped car in the Alfa Romeo? It's going to be close going into this corner here. The Porsche to the inside. The Alfa Romeo is going to try to defend the outside line. Again, no blue flags here. They're all battling as if it's for position. Even so, the Alfa Romeo is effectively a lap behind, but here comes the Porsche. Can it make it stick on the outside line? You've only seen the Mercedes kind of make this line work so far. But sure enough, when you've got a top 5 car versus one of the slower cars in the field, the Porsche should be able to make it work. It's going to be close though. Oh no, I spoke too soon. Here comes the Alfa Romeo. And to be honest, the Alfa Romeo was running towards the top of the field in Catalonia, so proving that it still could be a force to contend with, as we're now on board with the Vento, who has been overtaken by the Dodge as well. Peels into the pits as we see the BMW now up against that Porsche on the inside line. Again, we've seen that move so many times, but yeah, still no one able to make that work, as we see the Lamborghini still stuck behind the Honda. So even after the pit stops, is still stuck behind that Honda, and that's terrible news for the Lamborghini. Would have been like to clear it, and right now looks like the best it can hope for is that P14. But again, it seems to have gained a position or two in the pit still. So you know, P15, you know, not a bad recovery drive considering where it started, but yeah, it just hasn't found the way past the Honda yet. and the Honda defending very well and keeping ahead in the pit stops, which is pretty surprising, to be honest. As you can see, the Toyota is up in 11th, and it's because the Bentley is out of the race. The Bentley is out of the race, unfortunately, and with him, I think, the Ferrari was already out of the race, but yeah, the Bentley's out of the race, and that's promoted everyone at position, I think. I think somebody else has lost that position as well by the looks of things. It's quite hard to tell at the moment as we look through the field. But yeah, only 23 finishes out of 27, so 4 retirements so far. Pretty much a race of attrition. You can see the McLaren is pitting as well. Pretty dismal race for the McLaren. Well off the pace once again. It's looking like a season to forget already for the McLaren, unless it can change things pretty quickly. As you can see now, the battle for P3 beginning to spice up as the Alfa Romeo trying to unlap itself against the Mercedes. And again, the Mercedes worked so hard to get that position from the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo now under pressure from the Porsche, and if the Porsche can get past the Alfa Romeo, there is no defense now between the Mercedes and the Alfa. But again, this is a precarious position to be in. On the inside line, we saw the Ferrari try to make this move stick and squeezed too tight, and if anything, has to give up the position to the BMW. The Porsche wisely not risking that move, but you can see already, gosh, the Alfa Romeo on 2 wheels, and that's going to allow the BMW to overtake it and lap it. And all of a sudden, the Porsche down in P5, but again, it's seen what's happened to its championship rival in the Ferrari and just wants to make sure to finish the race, I think, at this point. As it's been a very good comeback drive from the BMW, but again, not able to lap this car. The Alfa Romeo proving very tricky to these faster cars, and it's really holding up the leaders by the looks of things. As again, finally makes that move on the Alfa, and the Porsche still stuck behind it. So, and that means there's no cars now between the Mercedes and the BMW. So the BMW has an outside shot at the podium, which, considering it started, out towards the bottom of the top 10, is a very good recovery drive. We've had a decent recovery drive now from the Renault, who is now on the back of the Audi. The Audi out of nowhere in P7. The Jaguar in P6 as well. So a lot of these sort of top runners has begun to fall away by the looks of things. And, I think, yeah, again, the Bentley was in a good position, but now out of the race, unfortunately for the Bentley. But, yeah, it looks like here the Jaguar currently in P6 having a very strong race. You can see as it's trying to lap the Radical. Again, the inside line, though, never worked. And I think, once again, we're going to see this not materialising yet. Sure enough, that means the Audi, all of a sudden, is on the back of the Aston. And will it pull to the outside? No, it's going to try the inside line. But again, we've not seen this line work a lot. So it's going to have to be careful here, because the Renault might be able to pull a move on the outside with the more traction. But you can see it, the Audi sends it. Will it be able to make the move stick? No, the Renault's got a good run. Immediately pulling to the inside. Can it make the move for P7? The Renault lost out in the first round of pit stops, but beginning to come back here. And if it can salvage a P6, that'll be a great result for the Renault team. As you can see in here, the Aston Martin now up to P8 as well, potentially eyeing up these positions. As you can see, there's a bit of a crash here. What's going on here? The Radical is stopped on track, and as a result, it means the Audi's gone through. I don't know what the Radical's doing. A lap car holding up these cars as well, and it means the Vento has got 2 positions as well. So the Radical, again, causing a kind of collision there. We saw that earlier on in the race as well. The main winner out of all of that is the Vento, is now up into P8. And just when I was saying the Renault was in a good position, both the Renault and the Jaguar have lost 3 positions each. They were running in 6th and 7th, and they're now only battling for 9th. Of course, it's still salvageable, but, it's a shame to see it pan out that way. Again, I don't know what the Radical was doing parked on track there. Maybe it was slightly spun out, but that has really cost these 2 cars 3 spaces each towards the end of the race. But we're entering the last few laps of the race. You can see here the Porsche is kind of in no man's land now in P5. It's kind of let the BMW go. The Mercedes is kind of up the road now from the BMW. Again, just lapping way faster. The BMW only on a 1:36 last lap, so I don't know what went on there. The leaders as well kind of slotting into place. It looks like the Maserati will take the win, and with that the championship lead, as the Dodge only able to hang on to P2 by the looks of things at the moment. As again, there's not really any close gaps. The main battle is between the Renault and the Jaguar. Of course, it was for P6 just a lap ago. but now they're only scrapping for P9 after being involved in that little collision. But of course, they're probably just lucky they're facing the right way. We saw what happened to the Ferrari when it got involved in a collision earlier. It can easily just spell the end of your race. But you can see here, the Radical's still holding these guys up. So yeah, being a real thorn in the side, really, this Radical, considering it's a lap down. But again, has with no blue flags, it has no incentive to pull over and let these cars through. And yeah, as a result, it's just keeping its position for the moment. As we now cut on board with the Aston Martin. This is the new battle for P6 after, of course, these two benefited from that collision at the hairpin. And you can see they're currently stuck behind none other than the Nissan, who's held up his fair few races this race so far. So we'll see as we enter the last 5 laps if this is going to get any closer. You can see already the Audi all over the back of the Nissan, but again, not able to get through. Not many overtakes in the grand scheme of things, considering this track is normally one of the easier ones to overtake on. But you know, the AI just struggling really and getting some collisions. When it comes to it, as you can see, the Audi now trying to pull to the inside of the Nissan, still not able to make the move stick, and this can allow the Aston to get a great run on the pair of these guys. And as it gets the double toe, you can see as well, this is the Vento out of nowhere. The Vento on a comeback drive was outside the top 10 for so long, but with a few of the late retirements, it now finds itself potentially battling for P6 towards the end of the race. We're going to see it throw itself up the inside of the Aston. Will it be able to make the move stick? It's going to depend on the drive, and the Aston getting a better traction there as the Audi finally gets past the lap car of the Nissan. Should be enough to make the move stick. Will the Aston be able to follow it through? It's going to depend as the Nissan forces the Audi very narrow. It's going to give the Audi a bad line into the corner. Here comes the Aston. As they go side by side here. The Aston might get the pair of them. Could this be a double overtake? The Aston Martin going for a crazy move. Oh my goodness, he's caused a crash. The Audi is out of the race, and after a comeback drive from the Audi, the Aston Martin has caused a crash. And trying to make 3 cars go into 1. The AI very bold on that. And the Audi is out of the race. Another casualty here, as we're only going to see 22 finishes. And just when it looked like the Audi was having a good performance, another big car there out of the race. And that's just going to promote all these cars up an extra position. You can see the Lamborghini has finally got past the Honda and has completely gapped it by 10 seconds. So that's what I'm saying. The Lamborghini way faster than those cars around it. It's recovered to what will now be P12, I think, once the Audi falls through the field. It's currently P13 and is right on the back of the Ginetta, which is up in P12. So again, a surprising result there for the Ginetta, but all these cars promoted an extra place. You can see here, this is now the battle for P8. The Renault is going to try a move as they're still stuck behind the Radical. Will he be able to do a move for the Jaguar? Again, I think 8th is the best either of these cars can hope for at this stage. But here comes the Renault. It's going to be side by side into the corner. The Renault is going to be able to pull alongside. Will it be able to take the lead before the corner? We've seen the outside line be a good defensive line on this corner. And again, I think the Jaguar is in a position to defend it. As you can see, here comes the Renault pulling to the inside. It's going to depend on the drive out the corner, and the Jaguar gets the better drive. And will hang on to their position for the time being as these guys still battle for P8. But yeah, the Audi now out of the race as well. Disappointment for the Audi outfit as we cut onto the Lamborghini, who's on an absolute mission. A comeback drive to potentially, I don't think he can get top 10 at this point, but potentially could even get up as high as 11th. Of course, it's lapping way quicker than the cars around it. Should be on the back of the Ginetta this time next lap. As you see the Toyota now in the top 10 as a result of all the retirements from some of the top runners, and is kind of joining this battle for P8 as a result of, you know, these guys being held up by that Radical up in front. So again, a very mixed up order for this 1 hour race. And as a result, it's going to really, you know, come down to the wire, I think, here, as we now look on board with the BMW. The BMW finally closed back up to the Mercedes. So this gap was quite big a few laps ago, but I think the Mercedes stuck in lap traffic a bit and currently under threat of losing its podium. I think the top 2 are secure. Big lunge from the BMW. We haven't seen this move work, but the BMW makes it work and gets past the Lotus as well, which runs right. And I think with that, has secured himself a podium. A very, very big statement from the BMW. A great comeback drive, and the Mercedes is going to have to tuck in for P4, but, you know, still a lot of points over the Ferrari, who is DNFing this race. Again, you know, very unfortunate there from the Ferrari and the Audi, and the Bentley for that matter, three cars which were running well within the top 10 out of the race, and that's just allowed some of these other cars which wouldn't conventionally be in the top 10 to now challenge for the top 10. We can see the Renault now on the outside line. Can he perform a double overtake? He's got an overtake on the Jaguar. Can he put a lap car between himself and the Jaguar? The Jaguar's going to come back at him, but is boxed in by the Radical, who again is causing trouble for these cars. The Jaguar's had enough. He's trying to shove him out the way, but he will not be able to get past. And the Renault is, I think, home and dry now, but again, a whole 10 seconds separating the Renault and the Vento. The Jaguar is finally going to get past the Radical, I think. Should be able to make this outside line work. We'll hope to make the outside line work, because if it doesn't work, it's going to be under threat from the Toyota. The Radical's still defending like its position depends on it. Even so, he's a lap car. We still see these cars side by side, and the Toyota just waiting in the wings there. But yeah, the Radical lacking that straight line speed the Jaguar has, and all of a sudden is now under threat from the Toyota as well. After causing a lot of mayhem. It's finally beginning to get lapped by some of these faster cars around it. As we can see here, the leader, a whole 10-second gap. A dominant race in the end by the Maserati. It looked like it was the Dodge for most of the race, but once the Maserati came in front, it has never looked back. And with less than 3 laps to go, it looks like it's well on its way of taking the championship lead and the race win. As we go on board with the Vento, a battle for P6 here between the Vento and the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin now the lead British car after we saw the Jaguar, involved in a little tangle, and of course the Bentley fall away as well. But again, the Aston Martin was outside the top 10 for most of the race, but has been able to have a great race of things. But no, now under pressure from the Vento. The Vento is going to pull to the inside. Are we going to see some side-by-side action here? No, the Aston Martin gets the drive, slams the door shut, and keeps the position for the time being. But, the Renault is beginning to close in. I don't think there's enough time, but you never know. The Renault, closing in a lot. But you can see the Ginetta now has been reeled in by the Lamborghini. It's going to come down to who has the better straight line speed. The Lamborghini struggling to get past the Honda and the Cadillac earlier in the race because of the straight line speed. But there should be no issues with the Ginetta. Makes the position. It's going to go side by side, but we know that Lamborghini has the straight line speed. And the cornering over the Ginetta. And sure enough, should have the position on the wraps. But a wheel on the grass here. It could allow the Ginetta back up the inside. They're going to go side by side, but I think the Lamborghini's got it. And it's been a decent recovery drive from 25th to 12th. The Lamborghini, making sure to not lose more points than it's already lost out at Spain. And should actually be able to close down the Ferrari in the championships now. Especially now the Ferrari has DNF from the race. So, great action here. As you can see the Glickenhaus on the back of the Honda as well. Can the Glickenhaus get past the Honda, which was able to hold up the Lamborghini for such a long time? That is the question. But as we enter the last couple of laps, we're about to enter the final lap. And again, a dominant performance from the Maserati. Well on course to take a win now. 14 seconds to the Dodge, which I think is just resigned for second place. Of course, we saw the BMW make that bold move for the podium a few laps ago. Third place looks secure as the Mercedes has tucked into fourth. But again, it should be comfortable fourth. The Porsche comfortable fifth. But again, what could it have been? The Porsche was ahead of the BMW at some point. And to see the BMW now in a podium position. Again, damage limitation, I guess, from the Porsche. Should still be second in the championship. But yeah, the Maserati will take the lead after this race as we cut on board with the Vento. Could be the last piece of action we see as, again, the leader is on the final lap. But these two still have a lap and a half to go. They're stuck behind the Cadillac. And, yeah, the Cadillac hard to overtake in a straight line. So this could be a chance for the Vento to, get ahead of the Aston if the Aston finds itself boxed behind the Cadillac. And sure enough, you can see the Vento close right up. He's going to get a better run off the corner than the Aston. Will pull to the inside. Will it try to make a move into turn one? We've seen a few cars try, but none successfully. And, if it's not careful, could end up crashing on the final lap. The Vento's going to send it anyway, but no, not able to make the move stick. And I think the Aston Martin should be able to hang on. Only one or two opportunities to do so, but here comes the Renault out of nowhere on the outside line, which is the racing line, and the Renault, after getting past the Jaguar a few laps ago, has all of a sudden recovered back into P7. As we get a bit of a lag spike there, but again, of course, the Renault was battling that Jaguar for P6, but of course they fell to P9 and 10 after being involved in a little collision. But here comes the Renault on the last lap, making one last charge. He's already got the Vento for P7. but I don't think we'll be able to get the Aston Martin. But still, great performance there right at the end for the Renault to salvage the P7. Great final lap there to gain that position right at the depth. And yeah, just when the Vento looked like it was all over the back of the Aston, out of nowhere, the Renault comes and takes that P8. As we can see, the Maserati has won the race. Second place is the Dodge. Third, the BMW. A great drive from the BMW. The Porsche tucking in for P4 in the end. What's happened to the Mercedes? Or was it always P5? I don't know. I think the Mercedes might have lost the position right at the depth by the looks of things. Because yeah, all of a sudden in P5, but again, a decent-ish point tool. The Renault is going to be right nose to tail with the Aston Martin. But won't be able to get that P10. Yeah, very close battle though, but between for seventh there, sorry. For sixth between the Aston, the Renault, and the Vento, but it will finish in that order: sixth, seventh, and eighth. The Jaguar just behind in ninth. As we still rate for the last few cars to finish. The Toyota getting in the top 10, a distant 10th that is. The Ford in P11. A good recovery drive for the Lamborghini to get P12. As we look through the final order, can the Glickenhaus get a move on the Honda? It's not looking likely. But no, this will be the closest battle to the line as the Glickenhaus gets a good run on the Honda, but it's not going to be enough. They're going to finish within 3/10 of each other at the line, but to no avail. As we look at the standings, the only car under 57 minutes is that Maserati. Yeah, in the end, a 17-second gap. Fairly dominant performance over the Viper over this hour-long race. As you can see, the BMW, a comfortable P3 in the end. Good result there. The Porsche in P4. And the Mercedes, I think, lost out right at the end because getting that P5 when it looked like it had P3 in the wraps for the most part. So I don't know what happened on the final lap there, but, you know, a change full position as we go down through the order. And yeah, in terms of the updated standings, as we just fill this in now. So as we update the standings here, for the end of the second episode, we're gonna fill in each of the point scores here. So we'll see how it goes. So if we fill them in, the Maserati getting the full points score, so that will be 40 points for a win for the slightly longer race here. So that will bolster the Maserati up to 61, which should put it in a comfortable P1 in the standings. Second place gets 35 points, so that will be the Dodge. Again, a mid-pack showing in 11th last time out, but with 35 points to its name, should catapult itself up the leaderboard, as you can see now, on 49 points. As we're going to just change the color here. As we now look at the rest of the table as well. P3 was that BMW, so BMW getting 31 points will be tied with the Dodge for that for position. Again, we'll see what the position is once the rest of the field. Well, once the rest of the fields have been allocated their scores. But you'll just make sure that the formatting is consistent as we go down the order again. The Porsche finishing in P4, so that will be 28 points there for the Porsche. So we'll be just behind the Maserati for that championship lead. So again, looks like a 1-2 between the Maserati and the Porsche at the moment. So you go down the order as well. Fifth place gets 25 points. So that will be, in this case, it was the Mercedes. Again, a decent points haul for the Mercedes. But again, 25 points will put it behind both the BMW and the Dodge. After, of course, it finished P6 last time out. The Ferrari only getting, I think, 25th in the end, which I believe is only, or 26th even. No, 25th, so that's only 3 points there for the Ferrari. So again, Ferrari quite a long way off the championship standings after that result, and Audi as well, down all the way as we go here. Yeah. So the Audi was in 23rd. So yeah, Audi in 23rd. So I think that's only 5 points there. So again, yeah, the Audi and the Ferrari after great performances last time. down the order, the Vento had a decent showing. You go down the rest of the order. So yeah, the Mercedes scoring 25 points. The Aston Martin scoring 23 points. So that will bolster its total up to 39. The Renault scored 21 points. That's 31. So we just fill out the rest of these scores. Vento scored 20 points. So another solid 20 points for the Vento to put it on just above the Aston Martin in the tables. The Jaguar scored 19. Toyota scored 18. So again, they'll be tied in the standings. Again, finishing pretty similar position, the both of them. The Ford, 17, so we'll be a few points above them. The Lamborghini, 16. So finally getting some points on the board for the Lamborghini. But again, not a good start to the season for the Lambo. The Ferrari, the Audi, and the Lambo will need to do some catch up in the next few races. 15 points for the Ginetta. Again, a three-way tie between the Ginetta, Toyota, and Jaguar in the standings. The Honda scores. Where even is the Honda? All the way down here. And scores 14 points. The Glickenhaus scores 13. The Acura scores 12. McLaren again a disappointing showing in 11 points. The Lotus would score 10. Alfa Romeo scored 9. So yeah, first points for the Alfa after that collision in Spain. 8 points for the Cadillac towards the bottom of the standings. The Nissan, 7 points. Again, bottom of the tables at the moment for the Nissan. I think the Chevrolet is even lower by the looks of things. The Radical scoring 6 points. Again, another poor performance from the Radical. 5 points for the Audi. 4 points was for the Bentley. So the Bentley, 4 points only scored this race. Again, it could have been a lot better, but unfortunately stuck in that collision. The Ferrari only 3 points, 2 points for the Lexus, and a solitary point for the Chevrolet, which was the first to crash out of the race. So only on 2 points at the moment, the Chevrolet, as we now sort the championship order, and that means that after 2 races, the Maserati is now our championship leader, as we expected. The Porsche in second place. They've got a bit of daylight there between themselves and the BMW and the Dodge, who will be 3rd and 4th respectively. The Mercedes will round out your top 5. The Vento consistent performances and now put it in P6. Aston Martin P7, Renault P8, Ferrari P9, and Ford will round out the top 10. Again, it's quiet performances from the Ford, but 2 strong finishes will put it in the top 10. And yeah, Ferrari and Audi still very much in contention, but currently quite a few points off the lead and will need to start clawing it back. Same with Lamborghini, really, but we know they got the pace come round 3. And that round 3 will be at the Hockenheim. Again, a shorter sprint race. We'll get that done maybe tomorrow. So yeah, catch you next time, and thanks for tuning in.